When you think of grand sweeping battles, cartoon wars are probably not very high on your list. And it's sadly true. Most cartoon battles, even when they're animated gorgeously, are just hordes of badly animated characters thrown at each other, or some action is happening off screen while the main hero and villain square off. One of the most defining features of Amphibia, in my opinion though, is that the series, starting with the episode True Colors, really tries to execute an excellent depiction of actual military strategy and combat. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends, and it's time for another battle analysis. Now, if you haven't seen any of my battle analyses before, please check them out. But I don't just focus on the events of the battle. I maintain that an excellently written fight is determined just as much by its build-up and the fight's consequences. If the build-up is weak or flimsy, or even non-existent, and if the consequences are lame and just don't make any sense, even a well-choreographed and brilliant battle will be easily forgotten. For me, True Colors is the strongest episode in all of Amphibia. It has everything going for it, and I'll argue that the concluding duel between Anne and Andreas in True Colors is slightly better than All In and The Hardest Thing, because its build-up, its action, and payoff are nigh perfection. So, for me to make that argument, let's get into it. When considering the build-up to the battle in True Colors, nearly every episode of Season 2 is leading straight to this conflict. Anne has gone through a great transformation in Season 1, and has learned how to confront her own toxic relationship with Sasha, and she's determined, however, to still save that friendship with her, and also to, again, find Marcy and everything to build up what she feels that she has lost. She demonstrates true heroism as she travels across Amphibia, saving strangers, getting to know the planters even better, exploring ancient magic and old ruins, and ultimately confronting herself. Just before returning to Newtopia, with the Calamity Box now fully empowered after visiting all three temples, Anne has a literal look in the mirror and is finally happy with the girl that she sees looking back at her. An important note to make here is that for Anne, she has reconciled just about everything that she needs to, save for her friendships with Marcy and Sasha, which is what the finale, the series finale, is for. All of that's been accomplished. There is, however, one great exception in Anne's heroic journey, and that is reconciling the relationship with her mother. Getting a gift for Mrs. Boonchoy back in Hopping Mall was an act of a loving daughter, and her heartfelt conversation with Sprig is great, but it confirms that there's unfinished business on that front, and that it is still a problem that she must overcome. A problem, I will add, that she is in no position to resolve at the beginning of True Colors. Now, when we look at the planters, they have been on a journey all their own. Polly has really come into her own. She befriends Frobo, and that has changed this ancient war robot, making it a true friend and ally. Sprig gets together with Ivy, which is cute and fluffy, but he also confronts his own immaturity and really grows up this season. Hop Hop sets aside many of his frivolous dreams and is more ready than ever before to fight and to sacrifice for his family, which now unequivocally includes Anne. We then turn our attention in this setup to Marcy. Though the revelations that I'm about to give happen during the battle, it's essential for us to know them as part of the setup. It was Marcy who accidentally got the girls transported to Amphibia. Discovering the possibility of world hopping combined with the rude news that her family was moving away, all Marcy wanted was a fantasy adventure with her best friends. Even if it was a long shot, she helped pressure Anne into stealing the Calamity Box and using it. And the magic worked! Marcy got her fantasy adventure, arriving in Newtopia, getting to know King Andreas, becoming part of his royal rangers, and making a legend for herself by battling bad guys and saving the city. She was living her best life, which could only get better if she had her two besties with her. When Anne arrived with the tale of what happened between her and Sasha at Toad Tower, Marcy thought that the best medicine was more adventures. She made a deal with Andreas that if she could re-empower the Calamity Box, he would send her on many more magical quests to other worlds where she could finally be together with her two best friends, having the life that she always wanted. So Marcy knowingly deceived both Anne and Sasha and encouraged them to make up so she could have this dream. And for a time, it worked. They reunited at the Third Temple and returned to Wartwood, where they bonded over dinner, music, and a band competition. Now it was time to collect the reward for her epic quest. Sasha, however, had other plans. The Toads abandoned Grime after his defeat at Toad Tower, and so deprived of an army and having lost all respect, Grime became a hobo, while Sasha trained relentlessly for a rematch with Anne. She and Grime barely managed to fend off General Yunnan.
I am General Yunnan, Scourge of the Sand Wars, defeater of Ragnar the Wretched, the youngest Newt to ever achieve the rank of general in the great Newtopian army,
who was so powerful and capable on her own that she didn't need an army. Well, that turned out great for her.
Youngest Newt ever to be made. This cannot be! I am General Yunnan!
Sasha and Grime then went to the other Toad clan leaders to assemble an army to overthrow the Newts and their stronghold at Newtopia. However, the other Toads refused to join unless Grime and Sasha could guarantee victory. They wanted them to retrieve the legendary weapon, Beryl's Hammer. Sasha was so determined to get what she wanted that she once again sacrificed important friendships with Percy and Braddock. With Beryl's warhammer in hand, Sasha and Grime plotted Newtopia's downfall. They would win Anne's trust and secretly sneak in a small army into the capital city. They would overthrow the entire kingdom with a coup, and in the chaos, a full army of allied Toads would storm the gates and seize the capital. And that's pretty much how this episode now plays out. The friends barely make it back to Newtopia on Joe Sparrow's back.
For Joe's sake, no one else is allowed to join our party. Woo!
And they reunite with King Andreas. Right as Anne is about to hand over the Calamity Box, Sasha and Grime strike, stealing the box and incapacitating the king. Grime uses the new king as a hostage to quell resistance within the city, as the first wave of Toad invaders secure the gates. If they can keep them open just long enough, the Toad army will flood Newtopia, and even the great King Andreas will be unable to turn the tide. Sasha then offers to Anne and Marcy to repair their friendship on her terms. She will send them back home while she controls Amphibia with Grime. She will have all the power, her friends will be at her beck and call, and she will again be the dominant gal. Anne refuses and is imprisoned for resisting. However, as she and the planters are being led away, Andreas and Marcy share a look. Meanwhile, Anne cannot take this final betrayal, and she goes berserk on the Toads. Yunnan arrives in time to help rescue them, and together they come up with a plan to defeat Grime and Sasha before the Toads can conquer Newtopia. They'll split their enemy's attention with a diversion caused by Polly and Frobo, while Anne and Sprig will close the gates against the oncoming army, and finally Marcy will make sure that Andreas is released, thus depriving Grime of his valuable hostage. And this is where things get fun. Like I said, most cartoons depict large-scale battles as globs of barely detailed characters battling each other while the heroes square off against the villain. True Colors goes a step beyond this. Since the good guys don't have an army of their own just yet, that's for the series finale, we just have them being awesome. But there's real strategy and a flow to this fight. We get the briefest glimpses of how Hop Pop distracts the Toads so Marcy and Olivia can free Andreas, and we just get enough crazy action to know that Polly, Frobo, and Yunnan are absolutely killing it against the Toads within the city, causing all kinds of destructive distractions.
Get ready for the pain!
The real fun is where Anne and Sprig are concerned. Their job is to seal the gate against the oncoming army, and they have very little time to do so. Sasha and Grime, who just uncovered the secret history behind King Andreas, realize that they are in even greater trouble if they don't stop the dynamic duo and spring thus into action. These duels are just about as visceral as Disney allows. Anne does not hold back against Sasha, going for the kill a couple of times. Sasha is skilled, yes, but she is hampered by two factors. Number one, she is not yet used to dual wielding, and number two, she's just trying to stop Anne, not actually kill her. This gives Anne the greater advantage, and even when Sasha disarms her, Anne uses her friend's own dirty trick back from Toad Tower to best her. and close the gate just in time. Meanwhile, Sprig and Grime go into this no bars hold fight with each other. Grime is legit trying to murder Sprig, and the little frog only wins by playing dirty and blinding Grime. This part of the fight has everything from crazy leaps, the brutal beatdown, the tricks they pull, and Sprig finally proving himself against the toad who tried to kill his family. Anne and her allies win just in the nick of time, defeating the coup and forcing the toads to lay siege to Newtopia. Andreas retakes control of the city and moves to stabilizing things. However, Anne doesn't pick up on how Andreas is so eager to send them home. Marcy thinks that they're just now going to go on to the next adventure, and no one is listening to Sasha pleading with them to not listen to the king. As a result, the Calamity Box is placed into Andreas's large hands. From this point on, Amphibia changes forever. Andreas takes off his mask and reveals what Marcy's part was in this all along, crushing the already broken friendship between the three heroines. He also is now just in full control, summoning a legion of robots and using the city's laser cannon to destroy the Toad's base, killing countless rebels in one blast. However, Anne still refuses to give up and rallies everyone to fight back against the king, who toys with them. This is obviously the wrong move, as it gives the heroes a chance to fight back and provides just enough time for Polly to finally sprout her legs, though Frobo has to sacrifice himself in the process to save her. Polly, however, gets back for that by eliminating more robots and stealing the Calamity Box. So Andreas then in turn retaliates by threatening to kill Sprig, and Anne tries then to negotiate the return of the box, but Andreas goes for the jugular.
That's the thing about friends, isn't it? The more you love them, the more it hurts when they go. Allow me to demonstrate.
In absolute shock, Anne taps into the latent powers that were still in her, even after her trip to the temple. Subconsciously, she activates her calamity powers and fights the king. This battle is sheer perfection. The epic musical twist to No Big Deal, the gorgeous animation, and quick, brutal fighting are a phenomenal mix. And what I love about this fight is that even while Anne wails on Andreas, he fights right to the very end, defiant in the face of magic much greater than himself. It sets up a rivalry that is key to understanding the deeper themes of the series and foreshadows the duel that the two of them will have during Frogvasion. However, Anne's power runs out, but thankfully Marcy has saved Sprig, but Andreas is hell-bent on finishing the job, and he can still fight. Marcy swipes the Calamity Box and manages to open a portal to Earth just in time, and while Anne and the others retreat, Grime and Sasha try to buy some time against Andreas, but they get hammered for it. Marcy is then skewered from behind, while Anne and the Planters are blasted back to Earth. Whew! That was an incredible cliffhanger to live through. The consequences to this battle are tremendous. Everything that happens in Season 3 is directly connected to this great battle. For Amphibia, chaos reigns. The Newts are thrown into disarray by their king's actions, with many of them fleeing and becoming rogues. The Toads become roving warlords, abandoning their towers so they aren't easy targets for King Andreas. And the Frogs are left to their own devices. The world is completely divided and made weaker to Andreas' iron fist. As for the girls, Marcy is critically wounded. She is rescued, however, but for a devious purpose. Her mind and body will serve as the host to the core, an unholy amalgamation of Newtopia's ancient kings and most brilliant minds. She will be their avatar in the amphibian conquest of Earth. Sasha becomes a fugitive and has to labor under the knowledge that she is directly responsible for all of this. She betrayed her best friends for power and lost everything. She then dedicates herself to protecting Wartwood, the one place she knows Anne truly cared about. And there she makes her stand and tries to use it as a means to atone for everything that she's done wrong and for everyone she's wronged, going on a long and hard journey towards her own personal redemption. And I'll just say here that this is one of the best villain redemptions, especially for new Disney stories, because Sasha's efforts to become a hero are proportional and just as meaningful as her actions were to being a villain. For the Planters, they are stranded on Earth with Anne, meaning that their personal journeys are now reversed from what they were back in Season 1. They will have the greatest impact, however, these journeys, on Sprig, who, through meeting the Boonchoys, will begin once more a new heroic arc that leads to him becoming the character, the hero, the friend necessary to save Anne at the right moment and rescue Earth and Amphibia. For Anne herself, a lot of people were very angry that Season 3 just didn't delve deeper into the trauma they demanded that she face. But as the Owl House has showed us, if you go that route, it eats up a ton of time. Time that Matt Brawley decided to throw at the last real problem Anne needed to confront before she could save her friendships with Sasha and Marcy. Anne needs to make up with her parents, especially her mother. But thrown back to Earth after such a horrible defeat, Anne is unprepared for this reunion and makes a lot of mistakes along the way. That is the core spirit to the first half of Season 3 and absolutely essential for addressing the matter of healthy versus toxic relationships. True Colors is a real masterpiece when it comes to executing an amazing fight. Nearly the whole episode is non-stop action with the heroes and villains engaging in a fierce tug of war. Sasha and Grime win at the beginning until Anne can reverse their fortunes in a brutal fight that could have gone either way. And when they win, Anne is betrayed by Andreas and Marcy, and then the king throws Marcy under the bus. Andreas is literally flying high and in full control, but by being a monologuing, mocking villain, he almost loses until he gets the chance to throw Sprig out the window. The main hero, Anne, gets a power-up thanks to the magic of friendship, and then we get that great fight with Andreas. It looks like Anne and her friends will be able to win, but then she loses her power, giving the king yet another chance. And this time, he finally ends the battle, scattering the heroes, shattering their hope. And it's fantastic because both sides have really given it their all in order to try to win. Each of their victories is earned, and even their defeats are earned. It's oddly satisfying to see the heroes beaten in a fight where they stood a chance. It makes the villains feel way more threatening because they beat the heroes at their best. And giving your heroes a solid L once in a while helps to establish greater stakes and forces said heroes to look inward and become stronger with presumably less than they had earlier, making their eventual victory all the more earned and rewarding. The later battles in All In and The Hardest Thing land so hard only because of everything True Colors confirms and sets into motion. Many critics complain about the middle book problem. It's that story in the middle of a trilogy. You go on a quest to get the thing, you get beaten by the bad guys, and now you prepare for the final book where the heroes will win. The second installment almost always feels more like a setup than anything else, and that's because it usually is. This is a very difficult thing to overcome, but True Colors is a wonderful culmination of everything that came before, and it sets into motion the next big adventure. While the battles in this episode are nothing revolutionary or grandiose in the large scale of things, they are beautiful and brilliant in the perfect execution of their simplicity and narrative importance. This episode pushed the boundaries of Disney propriety and rocked the fandom and world of animation. And I would love to see more Western cartoons embrace this kind of epicness. The last battle analysis that I will do for Amphibia will be for the episodes All In and The Hardest Thing. And oh boy, just wait for that crazy breakdown. This is where Matt attempted, and I would argue largely succeeded, at delivering a cartoon series version of The Return of the King. It's a finale that I don't think we appreciate well enough. Just how solidly it closes Amphibia. To close with some writing advice, let your heroes lose, but make both victories and defeats something that is earned. The heroes need to claw out significant victories, and they need to stand a viable chance against their enemies in crushing defeats. There's nothing as horrifying as having hope torn from your hands right at the last moments. And to toot my own horn for a moment, I enjoyed the great defeats that I wrote in Knights of Halicruz and the Dark Rebellion, because those defeats for my main characters were hard fought, allowing me to fully invest all of the emotion and the setup that I had put earlier into those books. Too many writers these days quickly deliver victories or defeats just to show how big of a boss their heroes or villains are. Don't do that! It cheapens the experience! With all that said, I hope that you found this video engaging, entertaining, and insightful. If you did, please leave a like and a comment, and subscribe if you'd like to get notified for the next big analysis for the battles of All In and The Hardest Thing. And if you want more writing advice, please check out our other videos here on the channel or our podcast episodes. And if you'd like to support us really, please buy one or two of the books that we've published. Links for all of that and more are in the description. Thank you for joining us on this adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, tschüss.